Hello, welcome to my channel and thanks for checking out this video. My name's Alex and the topic of today's short video is the hard problem of consciousness and qualia. So the hard problem of consciousness is something that comes out of philosophy of mind, which was my favorite topic in university, and I think that all discussions of morality and ethics and the way one ought to do anything all derives fundamentally from what consciousness is, the riddle of consciousness, or the great mystery, understanding it. That really defines like a lot of things. And we live currently in an age it is changing, paradigms are changing, but it's still kind of stuck in a materialist paradigm, which is a rather new, relatively speaking, a new paradigm, a way of thinking for humanity, which believes that time and space are external to observation or subjective awareness, or to consciousness. In other words, that it views time and space as fundamentally real, and the mind, the subjective experience of the mind, is somehow epiphenomenal or arising from this basic physical reality. And this leads to the problem in philosophy of mind of the hard problem of consciousness, which is a term coined by David Chalmers, one of the big names in philosophy of mind. And the hard problem of consciousness basically refers to the problem of explaining how any physical state, any physical system, how something like a brain gives rise to conscious awareness. Why would something be aware rather than unaware? Any physical system. There's actually no explanation for this, and the more research and time has gone into trying to explain this from a materialist point of view, the further away they are. So human beings, because of our nervous system, which has evolved through time to perceive the environment around us in the way that's optimal for survival, not for perceiving truth, our nervous system is limited in many ways, and we are subject to the limitations of the human brain. However, explaining how the brain, why it would ever produce something from a Darwinian perspective, from a Darwinian model of evolution, there's no reason why we would have the trait of subjective experience, especially from in a biological point of view. Life is the main goal is to continue reproducing. Why an organism like me could voluntarily choose not to and have all these inner experiences is still a mystery. So the hard problem of consciousness, again, refers to the problem of being able to explain from a materialist point of view how anything could give rise to subjective experience, which we have. Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." So if you just stop for a minute and you just close your eyes and you think to yourself like, "I am," and you introspect on the fact that you can think that to yourself, you know that you are consciously aware. You are consciousness. You're in this physical body. But how your brain gives rise to your awareness, that's the big riddle from the materialist point of view. Now, I'm of the perspective that the materialist paradigm is completely outdated and doesn't work. And a different paradigm, like idealism, solves the problem by making it not a problem to begin with. I think that, as Einstein said, the universe is essentially a giant mind, not a giant thing. And I think our brain evolved to have the perception of object permanence from about 6 months of age onward. So we think that the objects that we're interacting with are permanently there, even when we're not looking at them. But I think that's a trick of the brain. And that's what quantum physics seems to show us with the double slit experiment and the delayed choice quantum eraser experiments and so on. So I don't think that the brain produces subjective experience. I think that the brain is a second person representation of the mind, which is a part of nature, which has been embedded in the universe all along from the Big Bang. So in our culture, there's a lot of artificial intelligence talk, and there's a lot of science fiction movies, and I love science fiction. And one of my favorite movies is Blade Runner, for example, which is a very important movie, and culturally and philosophically to watch and discuss. But it's important to understand that AI, for most science fiction authors, is a plot device. It's not actually something that we have any reason to believe is actually possible. So far, when we study everything we know about the known universe, only biological carbon-based systems seem to exhibit consciousness. And there's no reason to think that it's algorithmic. And most of the greatest minds in AI research have become idealist philosophers because they realize they don't even have a concept of how they would ever even simulate subjective experience. it's something that's a priori built into the universe. It's not a product of a machine. It's the ghost in the machine. And I also want to clarify what the term qualia means. Qualia just is any subjective experience, basically the isness of a thing. So the redness of a rose, the feeling of pain, the sounds you hear when you're listening to a song, all of these are types of experience. These are qualia. And it's important to understand that things like color, for example, are not intrinsic to external objects. So when you're looking at a red apple in the distance, the apple physically, which I think is just represented by information, it's not fundamentally red. The redness, the quality, is something that our minds put onto the objects that we see. Those qualia come from our own mind, not the objects that we're actually looking at. So the official definition of qualia are instances of subjective conscious experience, and that's all they are. But this includes, like I said, sensations, colors, sounds, all forms of conscious experience inside your awareness that you're aware of. And again, there's no explanation for how any kind of system of computation or interaction between particles, which don't seem to exist independent of observation anyway, could ever produce awareness. It just seems to be built into the universe. So there are some of the biggest names in philosophy mind right now, like Donald Hoffman or Bernardo Kastrup, among others. They all have computer backgrounds, but again, they've reached Federico Fagan as well, who invented the first commercial microprocessor. They're all idealists at this point, and they're looking at nature from a different point of view. Also, there's a famous essay by another big name, along with Chalmers in philosophy of mind, Thomas Nagel. He wrote a famous essay called "What Is It Like to Be a Bat?" The whole point of that is bats have a type of sensation, echolocation, that their nervous system can pick up on. Humans, we don't have the apparatus for that, the sensory apparatus. We don't have the nervous system for that. So we can't imagine what the qualia of echolocation is like, because we have no reference for what even that type of qualia would be like. We know what sound and vision are like, but we don't know what echolocation would be like. We can't we can't imagine a reference for it because we don't have it. And so we can't imagine what other animals are perceiving. As well, there's something called the inverted qualia problem, which means that you and I can't be sure that when we look at something, that even though we agree on it being a certain color, that we experience the same color. What I see as red and what correlates to what you see as red doesn't mean that you experience the same color that I experience. So that's another interesting thing, is that in philosophy there's the inverted qualia problem, which is would we ever verify that we're experiencing the same qualia? So there's that. I also want to recommend this is an interesting book. Now, Nagel is a philosopher, not a religious person at all, but he wrote this book that influenced me when I was younger, Mind and Cosmos: Why the Materialist Neo-Darwinian Conception of Nature is Almost Certainly False. And in the book he focuses on mainly consciousness, cognition, and value, and how these things don't seem to arise from any sort of algorithmic process, and why they would arise in nature at all is a mystery. So I don't think the materialist paradigm and things that come out of it, like humanism, have any ground. I think that the universe is probably one giant interconnected form of mentation, and that's why our consciousness and how we behave is so fundamentally important. And I don't think that reality is meaningless. I think it's composed of just meaning, and that even physical systems seem to be best represented as data, binary data, which is by definition meaning. So let me know what you guys think. I'm really curious, for those of you watching, who among you are materialists, who are idealists, or how you view consciousness, what you think the relationship between the brain and subjective awareness is. Please feel free to leave a comment. Otherwise, like and share this video. Helps me spread them. I appreciate that immensely, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.